bath there. Hello Francis, in Israel, you wondering, do I think that it can't distinguish between its mother and its sister, because why is it going for milk there? And I think it's more inquisitive than anything too serious. I think it will definitely be able to tell who its mother is. They literally spend every waking hour right next to their mother's side, and they will be able to distinguish. With so many other elephants in a herd, I mean, here there's probably about another 6 or 7 at least that I can see in the general area just to the right of us. So it's unlikely that it's not going to be able to tell who exactly its mother is. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is shooting up and seeing if we can't get a view of where this male leopard was seen not too far from here. And because these ellies are moving so slowly and heading very casually towards the Buffelshoek waterhole, I'm confident that we will be able to get you some more views of them in a little bit. So I just do want to try and confirm. I'm hoping it's some Mvula, but no guarantees. Let's just enjoy a few more views. I think we're going to get a little gap here before we head off. It's just adorable, this little youngster. And you can see it is still a little bit shaky on its legs. Is everything okay? Yeah, it seems everything's okay. Maybe it's just a little bit stiff. Not used to spending too much time on its own legs. Its tail still looks a little bit bent as well, which is a good sign that it also was newly born, because its tail would have been bent in a certain shape when it was in its mom's tummy, and it's probably still straightening out those kinks. Wonderful stuff. We're going to shoot along, try to find you this big male leopard and send you across to Tristan while we do that.
Well, good luck, Scotty. I hope that you come right and you find what you're looking for, and I'll be interested to know which leopard it is, because it could be Tingana, it could be Mvula, it could be Djuma, it could be new male, one never knows. So interesting times ahead. Now, sorry, Ferg, I'm trying to just sneak through here because I believe that this is where the wild dogs were left this afternoon or this morning, so I'm trying to spot them in this thicket because we've had no luck with Tundi. I can't find any tracks coming out, so I thought, well, I might as well find the dogs, sit with them, and then if there's any alarm calls close by, that's going to help me a lot, because at the end of the day I will be able to just go straight there and it'll be easy to find them. But I don't see any sign of these dogs. Maybe they've gotten up and moved a little bit, or they're just on the right. Here they are, and I can see them now on the right hand side, which is good news. Hopefully they're not going to go running away from me, because it's quite dense in here. And we know how that all ended. There we go, there's a wild dog. There's one at least. Ferg, I think let's try and just go up to the top here. It's going to be probably better. Oh, there we go. So that's probably our best bet, is right there. So there we go, there's the rest of the pack. They're all lying in underneath the Tambuti thicket. It's a perfect place for dogs to have a nice shady afternoon of rest. And we really have been spoilt with this pack of late. They've spent a lot of time in this area. We've seen a lot of interesting behavior from them. There's obviously been the split that has happened, and it is one of the sort of a split from the Investec pack, as far as I understand it. It's interesting though, the numbers keep fluctuating in these splits. It's difficult to kind of keep tabs on exactly who's who and where they all are, because they kind of come in and out, and every time they come back they're in a different sort of way, and there's different members in different places. So this is the split that doesn't have the collared dog. So this is the ones without the collar on them, and then you've got the collared ones that are also running around. Now I'm not sure where they went. The last time we had them, they were moving, I think, around Chitwa areas. The last time the collared dog was seen, I think. I'm not really 100% sure, but that was about a week ago. And then we've got these guys now that are also around, and I'm not sure on Friday whether James had these ones or James had the collared dog. Ferg, was the collared dog with him?
I didn't see a collar.
No collar. Okay, so it must have been this lot that was with James on Friday, and then the rest must be also around somewhere as well. So Lily Brady, you say yay wild dogs. It's always exciting when we get the dogs. The dogs are such fun to follow around and to see how they go about their business. And this morning they had an action-packed morning as they got a human flying them. They also had a leopard come charging into that area, so it was all quite interesting for the dogs, and I'm sure they had a wonderful time watching what was going on and the antics of the bush. But they do get up to all kinds of things, and it's one of the reasons why following wild dogs is so exciting, because you just never know with them what's going to happen. They seem to have a nose for leopards. They tend to find leopards very easily if they are moving. Also, they are just incredibly exciting to watch when they're on the hunt because of the way that they move. And I'm pretty sure that this afternoon we're going to see a situation where they are going to get up and get going. Remember, around Gowrie Dam there was lots of impalas. There's the baby wildebeest. There's some zebra around there. Now, zebra's probably a little large for this group, but you never know. They wouldn't know that, and they'll hear movements of animals, and I'm pretty sure they're going to head that direction. And if they do, it will be absolute chaos if they run out onto that open area, because there's going to be animals that are going to split in every direction. Philip, you're wondering if the dogs howl. So I'm sure you're thinking also along the lines of a wolf howl. So no, not really. They will do the who call when they are trying to contact one another. So a wolf will howl when it's contacting each other, and territorial calls, whereas these guys do what's called the who call, which is a hollow hooing sound, and they do it regularly. And in fact, lately we've been hearing quite a bit of it from the collared pack in particular. They seem to be doing it quite a lot, and I'll play it for you now. I've got the actual call, but I don't want to play it too loudly because they do react very strongly to the call, so we just got to keep it a little bit down. So that's what it sounds like. So there we go. We're not going to play it too long. You can see how they poked up their ears, because when they hear that, and particularly this time of the year, they know that this is dogs that are looking for each other. There has been a split, so there's been a lot of calling that's going on. It's also this time of the year where they start sorting out alphas and in terms of the pairing, and so they make a lot of noise, and so playing that call is not really good because it gets them very excitable, and that's why I don't want to do it for too long. But that's the sound that they make. They don't really howl. They do also have an excited squeaking sound when they find food or other members of the pack, and or when they get going in the afternoons to start hunting, or the mornings, then you'll hear this excited chatter that goes on. And then if they see a predator, they will also not howl. It's more like a bark that they let out. So it's this rough sort of sound that comes out. It's a little bit shorter than what you'd hear from a dog's bark, but it is that loud sort of kind of sound that is very rough in its tone. And so those are the noises that dogs make. James, you're wondering if they have a den around? So no. Wild dogs, when they're denning, will den between normally May and into as far late as September would be a very late den period. So over the winter months is when wild dogs den. So this pack is not denning at all, and that's why their movement is so much at the moment. So they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out, and they're not fixed in one location. If they had a den, you'd pretty much find them most days at the same spot, and they would have a little termite mound where they'll have little ones. But the good thing is that if they're spending a lot of time here, and because there's been this fracture of the pack, you never know. Maybe they decide that this is going to be a good area for them to den next year, and we then have them in this particular section. Or the collared pack, the one with the collared dog in it, that split might decide to den here. So there's options now at least, and that's always good news when it comes to wild dogs. And a wild dog den is one of the most phenomenal things to have, not only because you get to see the dogs daily, but you get this amazing interaction, and you get to watch the social structure and how the bonding happens from an early age, and how tight that unit is, and the efficiency of these adults to be able to try and go back and forward and feed these ones, as also the tribulations that these guys and trials that they have that it takes to raise little puppies. It's absolutely phenomenally difficult for them there. You need to worry about lions, leopard. They've got martial eagles that come in every now and then and kill the puppies. They've got tawny eagles even. I've heard of battalier eagles feasting on a wild dog puppy before. Whether it was dead, I'm not sure, but I have heard of that as well. So a number of different things that they've got to worry about, and the puppies are tiny when they're born. They really are cute little things when they run around. And so if we get a den, it will be super exciting. It is one of the most phenomenal things. And on top of it, like I say, is you just see the most amazing stuff from the dogs themselves, because they're pretty localized, and so every day you can almost get a hunt out of them every morning and afternoon, which is absolutely phenomenal. So hopefully next year we will be able to show you guys a den. I don't think we've ever had a den on Safari Live. I'm not sure if we have. Maybe some of the viewers that have been watching for all these years will know if we've ever had a den site that we've monitored, but I can tell you it is an amazing thing to watch. The problem with the wild dog den is that you kind of have to have a tough, thick skin for it, because there is a number of things that happen at den sites that are tough, from heads of animals to be brought back, and then also from the standpoint that you will find a lot of these dogs, unfortunately, will die. The little pups, they don't last, a lot of them, and the mortality rate is over 50% in those puppies. So you can't get too attached to the puppies for early on. Unfortunately, it is quite traumatic in that regard. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering if these wild dogs are in any way similar or related to the dingoes of Australia. So I don't think so. I mean, dingoes are also part of the canine kind of family, and wild dogs are also part of that lineage, but they're not directly related in any way. They're not part of the exact same order, the exact same family grouping. These guys tend to be on their own little pathway, and not with dingoes, as far as I know, but they are probably under the same sort of dog family, so you'll find them and jackals and various others that will kind of be part of that, and they will be on their own sort of then family grouping from there. But a lot of similarities with the dingo, except that as far as I understand, the dingo is more a solitary specimen. I don't know that much about them, so I would imagine that they would be a little bit different in that they're not quite as pack animal like as what we see from the wild dogs. The wild dogs tend to be far more kind of into the pack lifestyle and be a lot more like that all the time than what dingoes are. From what my limited observations have been, and like I say, I don't really know much about dingoes, and so it's something I'll have to go and read up on, but I don't think that they are directly related. I think it's probably just under the same canine family essentially. But absolutely wonderful to see these guys. Like I say, I mean, now we're just being patient. At the end, they're not going to be down like this the whole afternoon. It's resting time now, and then they are going to get up some point this afternoon. So it's a lottery as to when they're going to get up. You've just got to try and be there at the right place at the right time, and hopefully then we get lucky and they get up and go on the move. I would imagine it will be just around sunset. That's normally when the dogs get up, although there is a really nice wind blowing, so it's a little cooler than it has been the past few days, which might what they would have been yesterday or the day before. Also, they are not very full. You can see that their stomachs aren't exactly swollen, so they will be hungry, and that bodes well for an exciting afternoon of wild dog chasing, and hopefully, like I say, that it will be a much safer affair than what we had this morning, but just as exciting in terms of leopards and various other things that they came across this morning. There you can see the nice toe structure of the wild dog, and so if any of you that are into tracking, you'll be able to see now why we are able to kind of identify wild dog tracks from hyena tracks. While they do have the two lobes, you can see on the back pad there that the lobe is almost squared off on the bottom, so there's not very visible lobes. So when these guys step, they leave a much straighter back pad, and then you see how their toes are quite far from the pad, and there is a definite split between them, so they are still quite rounded, whereas the hyenas are quite squashed together and form those little banana shapes. And then also these guys have very narrow feet, so those back pads, or the toes, are all squashed quite close together, so very long, very narrow track both on the back and the front foot, and it's a nice way to see it from the bottom side. And you can imagine how many miles those little feet have traveled. They've probably taken this dog all over the place, and it would actually be wonderful to know how many miles or kilometers a wild dog runs in a lifetime. It's obviously difficult because a lot of the dogs don't live out their full lifespan, but some of the older dogs, it would be interesting to know just how far they've traveled in their life. I think we would be astounded to know, because I mean, some of these dogs will do easily 200, 300 kilometers in the space of 4 or 5 days, so you can imagine how many that would be in a sort of 6-7 years. Matt, you're asking if I've heard of anyone trying to domesticate the wild dogs. Well, I mean, I've heard of people that have wild dogs in rehabilitation centers, and they never really become completely domestic. I haven't heard of anybody trying to actually sort of keep them as a pet. I'm sure people have, and I'm sure back in the day it was something that was tried extensively, but it's not something that should be done, and they're not an animal that probably does well being confined into spaces. And if you find wild dogs in any of the zoos around the world, it's a very sad sight to see, and you find the dogs get fat. They become, lazy in a way because they can't move around, and their body to have as a pet, but I'm sure people have tried. It's also not the kind of cleanest animal. They smell very, very bad, and they also are quite feisty, so it would be, I think, a difficult task to keep one of these alive. I think you'd have to have a serious budget to be able to feed wild dogs, keep them as pets. But again, also they're now so endangered that you wouldn't even be able to domesticate them and keep them as pets. It would be highly illegal to do that. It's only these rehabilitation centers that try and take in dogs that are injured that have them. Otherwise it's not something that you can keep. Right, now while I sit here with our dogs and wait for them to start waking up and hope that maybe Tundi even makes an appearance, let's go across to Scotty D and see how he's progressed in the search for that male leopard.
So no joy, it appears like the tracks of the leopard initially kind of crossed south from our northern boundary into Djuma, and I got very excited, and then a few meters further he slinked back off into the north, and those are the last tracks I saw. So I don't think we're going to have any further luck with him. And let me just check the time. How are we doing for time here? I think it's going to be worth heading back into the general area of Tristan and the wild dogs. I know I did say I'd go back and spend some time with that cute baby Ellie, but things change, and I think it does make more sense to be a second vehicle or safari live vehicle in the general area of those wild dogs as and when they start hunting, because they can bombshell, and because we are in the most maneuverable vehicles in the Sabi sands, it means we have the best chance of staying with them and relocating them so while they're moving. So I think that's a good reason, as well as the fact that there was 2 leopardess also in and around Tristan, and like Tristan said, wild dog have a knack of sniffing out leopard, and if they do sniff one out, there's usually some kind of commotion and interaction. Usually the leopard runs for its life, although this morning the tables turned when Tundi chased the wild dogs, which was quite interesting. And that means that it'll be useful to be there to be able to then take over one of the sightings that hopefully the wild dogs provide us with of a leopard. So that's kind of my game plan and theory. I couldn't resist shooting up to the Buffelshoek waterhole area once there was a report of a big male leopard there. I'll do my little bit for road maintenance today. This is a very light tree, not good for a fire. The wood will burn very easily and quickly. It's a silver cluster leaf, that's why even though it's big, it's easy to pick up. You get some other branches. If that was a leadwood tree, I would have needed both hands to pick it up. Alrighty. Really loving this cool, windy afternoon. The previous 2 afternoons were swelteringly hot, whereas this afternoon's been a lot more pleasurable in terms of the weather conditions. Very good conditions for hunting predators too. I guess, I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22 for the predators, because their prey are naturally a lot more nervous in this weather, because they're not sure about sounds and smells and even movements of bushes blowing in the wind, whereas when it's dead still, it's a lot easier for them to detect sneaky predators that are trying to stalk them. But on a day like this, we could get some great opportunities to stick with a predator on the move. The fact that Tundi and Shadow were both hungry when we last left them this morning is also a good sign for us. Wendy, I'm told you guys have all been discussing if we could become a lion, what I would get up to. Taylor was quite nasty. She said she wanted to scare as many creatures as possible. I would probably start a school program for lions, educating them how to be better hunters, because they are brain dead 9 times out of 10. They don't think And I guess it's good that they don't, otherwise there'd be no antelope and just a whole lot of fat lions lazing about. But they really do surprise me with their lack of teamwork and skills, even though yes, sometimes through default, in my opinion, it may appear that they are creating this master plan. Most of the time they are not. So that's what I would do. I'd start a hunting university for lions. What I would love though, Wendy, is I would love to be able to spend, the nights out prowling around and understand just how well they can see. And I guess it'd be fun to get into a wrestling match with the buffalo once, so I can say I've done it. Must be terrifying going into a wrestling match with a buffalo. So those are the things I would do if I was a lion. Taylor also said she would roar. I would also roar a lot. I would be doing lots and lots of singing. I think Senzo would also do a lot of roaring. He just let off a little roar from the back there. He probably didn't cheer it, sadly. But Senzo is also a roarer. I wonder what Tristan said he was going to do. Don't think you've got to Tristan yet, Wendy, so I look forward to hearing his plans.
Jump into the best car.
I'm still having flashbacks of... Not flashbacks, just little glimpses and memories of the scene of Tristan getting rocketed out that seat of the car today. I thought it couldn't get better than Taylor. Now, interestingly, what I also cannot believe is that Taylor thought it wise to be doing handstands. Her track record is not good, so I think she should be banned from trying to do stunts whilst live, unless, of course, she's happy to humiliate herself. She has a tendency to fall over. Some of you may have seen the video. It was just a fun video that we made. I think it was Taylor, Kirsty and myself went on a little bit of a hike, run adventure whilst in the Mara one afternoon, and we were doing some kind of run and jump action shots, and Taylor took a tumble then too. She did post that, so that will be there to see. So Taylor's live tumble was actually her second tumble that a lot of you would have seen. Okay, well now we are getting back into the area where anywhere here Tundi or Shadow could pop up. So I'm going to start slowing down a little bit, concentrating a little bit, with the hope that we are going to find you some spots. For now though, back up to Taylor. Good luck with her and her herd of elephants.
Sorry. I'm laughing at Manu's commentary. You would have died. It was so great. There were two young elephants who were pushing and shoving each other, and then that tiny little elephant came through and put its trunk up, and Manu went, "Oh no guys, don't fight. Everybody just be friends." It was so great though, and it was such perfect timing. Now, Scotty, listen, you better be careful as to who you're laughing at now. Tristan and I, yes, we have fallen down to the ground. I've seen the mud. Tristan's seen the dirt. You could be next, my friend, and I will roar with laughter. I actually cannot wait to see Scotty slip. Maybe he's going to slip on bushwalk. How funny would that be? Maybe he does the splits and it splits his pants. Hey, Manu? Imagine how hilarious that would be. But, of course, I hope that it doesn't happen. No, I do. I'll be lying. I'd be lying to all of you if I said that I hope Scott doesn't slip and split his pants on bushwalk. But we are sitting with the elephants of the marsh at the moment, seeing as though we were with the breakaway marsh pride. I thought it's only fitting. And it's two youngsters having a bit of a tussle this afternoon in the remaining light. Sadly, the clouds have ruined our golden hour. And we've left our lions. They've gone back to sleep, and there wasn't much happening there. I think they're going to wait till after dark, or maybe even tomorrow morning. So we're going to come straight back to this area. And it looks like Mom's getting involved now. She's not happy with the tussle that's going on. See that? She's putting herself between the two. There you go, being taught a lesson. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering if I think that elephants get sick of eating. No, and I suppose I don't get sick of eating either. I'm like an elephant. So no, they don't get sick of eating. They have to eat large quantities. They know this. What's going on the right? I mean, there's some interesting behavior going on over there with the rest of the family. Everyone's quite excited this afternoon. They're all the little ones gathering now. So no, they have to constantly keep eating. Obviously, most of us know, but for the new viewers that have just joined us, elephants have got a very poor digestive system. They're not the best at extracting all the nutrients from the food that they're feeding on, which means that they have to eat at least 5% of their body weight every single day, and that's why their dung is so coarse as well. There's a bit of like a family domestic going on at the moment. All the youngsters, the siblings, all fighting with one another. No, he pulled my hair. No, she pulled my tail first. And now they're fighting. But Mom keeps chiming in and sorting all the youngsters out. There's one of the adult cows now, sorting that young bull out again. And those young bulls are an absolute nuisance for the breeding herd. He's getting to that age now where the adults are going to stop tolerating him and will start pushing him away, like what we just experienced. She knew that wasn't going to end well, so she put a stop to it right from the beginning, and then the cow on the right-hand side will probably do the same thing. He's being a bit boisterous. You don't do that to a fully grown woman. What's wrong with you? And that's why they get shoved out, is because of that. They just cause trouble with their little ones. They try and mate with the adults, and they're not interested, of course. And they kind of bring it upon themselves, but they don't know any different. Now, I'm sorry if the camera's moving. I'm swatting because I'm being surrounded by midges at the moment. Now take care, you're wondering if little elephants are born with a relatively proportional trunk. Actually, when an elephant is born, oh, sorry, I'm spraying. I'm spritzing. Go away, bugs. I'm spritzing myself. The elephants are born with a lot shorter trunk, and I think that's because if it was as long as what an adult's trunk is, they'd probably step on it and do a somersault, which could be quite entertaining to watch. But luckily, nature is not too cruel all the times, and it starts off quite short, and only once they get a couple of years old does it look in proportion to the rest of their body, and does it actually touch the ground. I mean, they've got so many muscles they need to train in their trunks. Never mind them still trying to train the muscles in their feet. Sometimes you watch little elephants and, you think they know what they're doing, but they don't. They tumble over, they slip and slide. They do struggle. You can see little ones trying to get on in. Hang on, those are too big for you to play with, I'm afraid. You're going to get bullied. And bullying does happen within a herd, but you will see Mom step in if anybody messes with that youngster. She won't tolerate that kind of behavior from the older cows. And the siblings are normally quite gentle with one another. You always see them helping. Normally when a little one tips over or falls into the mud, you see the whole herd will run over to try and help it. And the elephants are very clever in the sense that they typically play with elephants of their own age and own size, although sometimes you see them pushing one another around. Now, I'm so excited that Tristan has managed to relocate on those wild dogs again. He was so surprised by them this morning that he fell out of the car. So let's jump back on board with him in the Sabi sand, and it's time to get hunting.
Well, our doggies are still sleeping, still taking it easy. The one on the right is particularly my favorite because it's got its head tucked up against a tree. So it's decided that it's far more comfortable just to lean against the tree like that and just use the tree as a pillow. Although I don't think I could share that sentiment. It looks highly uncomfortable from this angle, but seems to be working for that wild dog. He seems to be pretty happy with life, leaning up against the tree, ear tucked behind it, and so, well, good on him. I suppose if he's happy with it, or she, I can't If it's a male or female, well then, good on them. Now, the rest of the pack is all sleeping, and one dog did stand up and started sneezing. So this is something that we've discussed before, but for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, is that we have read an article recently. It was a study that went on about wild dogs sneezing and whether that indicates what's going on. And so there is a thought process and a kind of paper that's been written on that when wild dogs start to sneeze, it's almost like a voting process, particularly in packs where there's no alpha pair that has been formed, which is like this pack we have here. And the sneeze is almost like a vote, as if it's time to get going and moving and hunting, or is it time just to sit and rest, or what the case may be. And so I got up just now and started sneezing attention, but it's starting to happen, which is good news for us. It means that maybe, just maybe, we're going to start seeing them waking up at some point. You wouldn't say so from the one passed out against the tree. It almost looks like he's had too much to drink, and his friend to the left, that is kind of got his head down on his paw and is also fast asleep. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's an interesting thing, and hopefully we'll catch it this afternoon. Hopefully we'll see a situation where they do start waking up, and we'll get that sneezing caught on camera, because it is amazing. Truth to it. Since that day, I've watched these dogs, and every single time they get up, they start sneezing. Every single one of them. And it is a kind of this vote process that goes on. It's absolutely fascinating. Shauna, you're wondering if the ears of a wild dog are its greatest strength. So, Shauna, as an individual, yes, their ears will most certainly be one of their best senses that they've got. They are massive, they're going to hear everything, but the wild dog's greatest strength is that they are in a pack. That is the one thing that a wild dog has over all these other predators, and why they can bully leopards and bully hyenas and not so much lions, but the other predators that are around, they definitely can take them on. It's because they're in a pack. So their single greatest strength is that they have this pack unity, and that it is a very strong social bond between them. If they had to remove them and go at one dog, the chances of survival is very slim, but the ears would definitely be one of the biggest senses that they would use to survive. Although I think that in wind like this, or in certain ways, the ears aren't going to pick up things, and it'd just be very difficult. At least when they're in a pack like this, they can watch each other's back, and they can try and defend each other should anything happen. So their biggest single strength is most definitely that they are a pack animal, and that they're in numbers together. What surprises me is that we have seen also some of these dogs in smaller groupings together that have done really well. So if we take that lower Sabi breakaway pack, those 3 dogs, which we haven't seen too much of recently, I wonder if it's because of these 2 bigger packs that have been operating here a lot, have kind of pushed those 3 away. But those 3 dogs have done so well. They've been on their own now for almost 2 years, and yet they are still running around. There's still the 3 of them, and for that to have happened is really quite phenomenal. Dogs, unfortunately, live a very charmed life, and they have a situation where they get themselves into trouble quite a lot, and so there's often fatalities and casualties within the pack. So amazing that those 3 that have kind of settled and that they've kind of kept themselves safe. Now, this is very exciting news, and I'm very, very excited for Scotty D. It seems as though he's found what he was looking for.
Welcome everyone. We've just found this female leopard and she's taking a drink. I just need to help some other vehicles get into this sighting. Affirmative, I'm live. Make your way here. And isn't this absolutely awesome? Now, I'm guessing that this is Tundi, and we are hoping that she's going to take us back to her den, but I think she's just actually come from there. The direction she was moving in indicates that she's just gone back to the den to nurse herself. It appears our timing is off. Now, there's a whole bunch of squirrels alarm calling, and that's what got us excited about the prospects of finding her even before we saw her. You can possibly hear the chick. Let's actually show the squirrel quickly, since it's just halfway up this dead tree to the right there, just where my finger is there, on that dead tree. Can you find it? Zoom in, just to where my finger was, right there. There we go. There's bless you, Sens. Senzo's just had a sneeze, and there you can see the two squirrels that are alarm calling at the leopard. But let's go back to the leopard now that you've seen that. Bless you again, Senzo. Senzo's obviously allergic to cats. I didn't realize, Sens. Bless you again, maybe third time lucky. Senzo's had an inopportune moment to get a sneezing attack. Better than falling out of a vehicle though, or falling off, so be grateful. It's just that. Now RJ, I am not entirely certain that this is Tundi, but I'm highly there's a high probability that it is her, just judging from the area that she's moved out of. Now, she has a den site about 100 meters behind us, and she's obviously just popped in there to nurse the little cub, and is now going to head off, probably in search of a meal. It probably means she had an unsuccessful day hunting. Now, what do we do here? It's so thick in there, and I'm tempted not to try and follow her through. Well, James Richards, can you believe it? You say that this is Shadow. And thank you very much for that. Now, literally the den sites, or at least the last known den sites, are only about 100 meters away here. So we're going to go and have a look down there a bit later, but let's try and stay with this leopard. Now, what may have happened, who knows? Is that maybe Tundi, Shadow's sister, took her to show her cub? It's highly unlikely, but strange things do happen out here. I just need to give Rex and the guy that's coming into the sighting a quick updates on her movements. Too much traffic on the Game Drive radio, so I can't talk just yet. As I was about to chat, some other guys started chatting. Now she is gonna pop out somewhere. Here she is, here at kind of 10 o'clock Sens. So I just want to get ahead a little bit more. Oh, shoo, we got lucky. She just lay down. Let me reverse a tiny bit. Well, James Richards, thank you so much, and I'm astounded that this is in fact Shadow. Can you see her moving there? Perfect, well done. There you can see she's just taking some time to groom herself. Now I can give the guide an update on the Game Drive radio. Apparently this Mafazi Ingwe is Shadow, and she's now close to Twin Dams Road, between Ingwe Alley and Wahlbergs. Now the only it's so tempting to go back to that den site. She's literally come straight from that area, and who knows where Tundi is. And what I'd also love to know is, have you guys, any of the viewers, had any sightings of Tundi and Shadow in the same kind of spot, and what happened between them? Because ordinarily female leopards will fight ferociously over territories. This is unique in that, well, not unique, but a little bit different in that it's a new territory that's opened up, so maybe neither Shadow nor Tundi have got the full grip of who's the boss of the spot yet. Angela, you'd like to know if this leopard is hurt, and yes, it is carrying a little bit of a limp. I think it's its front left leg that's got a bit of an issue, but apparently she's healed a lot since guys last saw her. I'm not too sure how long she has been injured for, what caused the injury, but the good news is that it appears that her limp is beginning to go away. Isn't it incredible how well she blends in there? Now, I'm guessing that she's just going to have a short little break while she does her pedicure, and once she's finished with that, I'm hoping she is going to get back up. Another vehicle gets you. I'm tempted to race back to the den and just see what's going on there, because I'm very, very surprised at the area she's come from. It could just be complete coincidence that she was in that area, but it's literally 100 meters away from where we initially saw her to that den site. That's why I falsely presumed that it was Tundi. But thank you for James Richards, and any of you who also may have noticed that it was in fact Shadow. Well, it appears like we are going to have a good afternoon, I think, with this leopardess. She does have a young female cub, this individual, and sub-adult rather, and I don't think she's seen her the whole day, so she's been out and about and hunting, moving around quite large distances during the course of the day. Even though it's been fairly bright, sunny and warm, she's been trying to get herself a meal, but with no joy. If she had have in fact made a meal, she'd be moving quite swiftly back towards her daughter to collect her and bring her to the kill. They usually try not to waste any time whilst doing that because they're on the risk of other animals stealing their food. Can you believe how lucky we got? She lay down at the perfect time. If she had laid down a few seconds earlier, we would have had a lot of trouble relocating her in the buck. Now, I don't think it's worth crashing through the bushes to get to her, so we're just going to stay put where we are. It's not going to really improve the visual drastically if we do go off-road, so I just think it's worth just waiting until she gets up and going again. Also, what's interesting is that she's only a few hundred meters away from the wild dogs in Tristan, so anything could happen with these two predators bumping into one another. Lisa, you'd like to know if there's any kind of possibility that this leopard Shadow and her sister Tundi have some kind of a fluid agreement with regards to this newly acquired or newly opened piece of territory. Lisa, it's a tricky one. I mean, anything is possible in nature. That I must start by saying, and I think every safari guide would cover his bases by starting by answering a question like that. So there's always random things that could happen. Oh, she's up and on the move now. Beautiful golden light on her coat. And I think it's unlikely that they're going to have a good relationship where they both share one another's territory. I do. I think they maybe will be possibly more tolerant of one another once they do bump into one another trespassing, but I think they're still going to enforce those rules. And I mean, there's even some quite big fights between young leopards and their mothers over kind of uniquely friendly relationship. But maybe I'm wrong. I've hardly had any experience with situations like this with two sisters in one given spot. Just need to move a little bit further forward and then we should get a view of her. There we go. Might just be able to see her face poking out behind those green bushes there. There she is. Oh, let's just make sure she's got no scratches or cuts. Very slight limp. Doesn't look like she's been fighting with her sister, that's for certain. Golden light hits her. And she's quite fortunate. She's moving in a direction where through default she's going to be walking into the wind, which is really good. Whilst on the prowl like this, she is hungry, and if she does come across any possible prey, she is definitely going to try and sneak up on it. And the wind's definitely blowing from south to north, and she seems to be tending in a kind of southwesterly direction. So wonderful, wonderful stuff. Let's just give another update to this guy to tell him his best route access now that she's mobile again. Rex. She's crossed west over Twin Dams, about 50 meters north of Ingwe Alley, Mobile East. Just come along Twin Dams if you're at Wahlberg's, and you should get our visual from the road north of Ingwe Alley. I'm just trying to get a decent kind of spot ahead of her, and I think she may well go up onto the little termite mound up ahead of us, which will make for some wonderful, wonderful scenes. I'm thinking we are going to get lucky. Let me get around quickly. Get ready for screenshots. Ginger, you would like to know what would happen if a shadow, this leopard we're following now, found her sister's young cub. It's impossible to know. If Thandi wasn't there, who knows? Maybe she would kill it. I mean, that would ordinarily happen if another female leopard found her. Rex, I've got your audio if you head west from there. Oh, she's... And slightly north, Rex. So, now, Sense, keep a close eye on this termite mound. She's going to go quite tight just to the left of that big bump where there's an open clearing. She could well pop her head right over there, and we'll get some great views of her as she does that. She was slowly coming in this direction. Go a bit tighter there, Sense. There we go. Look at that. It's my favorite thing when they poke their head around termite mounds, looking for any options. Absolutely awesome. Perfect afternoon light. It doesn't get much better than this. They are such cool animals. I have missed them dearly. And this is the first kind of decent time and afternoon that I've been able to spend with leopards since arriving back in the Sabi sands. This morning was okay, but this is absolutely awesome. The area that she's taking us through is not too thick, so we're going to be able to loop ahead of her with ease. Perfect afternoon sunlight, and she's heading straight in front of our vehicle here. Beautiful. Now, I haven't seen anything up ahead for her to hunt, but like I said, it is quite thick, so there is there's generally quite a lot of impala that move through this area. Okay, let's reposition again. How cool was that when she poked her head around the termite mound? Hello, lovely Laurie. You'd like... Started at... What time did it start? 3 o'clock, I think, South African time. And it's finishing at 6:30. So it's a 3.5 hour drive, I think. I don't have a clue. All I know is that I'm driving for 2.5 hours, Laurie, from 4 o'clock South African time to 6:30 in the evening. So it's the same it's been every afternoon for the last few weeks, if that helps you. And we do have three schools actually joining us in the next few minutes. Interestingly, they're joining us a little bit later than the schools usually do. The schools usually join us at the beginning of the drives, but not today. So everything is as normal, Laurie, if that helps. No changes. Okay. Now, there's a few holes here. Ooh, and a stump. There's a bit of spots I can go around there. I don't want to fall into a hole and then get shot out the seat like Tristan did this morning. If anyone's ever having a bad day or a bad mood, just keep the video of Tristan and Taylor on your phone and you can watch it and you'll be instantly cured. Now there's another big termite mound that I think she's heading towards, so I'm thinking of gambling to try and get around to it. Oh, we're gonna have to and I don't want to get in her way. Hold tight. So we're just going to have to squirrel our way through these thickets. Oh, I think we've got a little half gap. We're in luck. Yep. Oh, yeah, this is going to be another good one, Sens. Time will tell. Where is she going to poke her head up? I'm guessing it's going to be right over there. I think that's where she's going to poke her head up, but we do have a slight risk that she may go a little bit behind these branches. But pick an area, Sens, wherever you're feeling lucky, because she's about to come creeping up and over to get her next vantage point. Them to, but I'm guessing she is going to continue making her way up. Judging by the view of the guests, it does look like she's about to come. Oh, there she is. Well done. I'm not watching the monitor, I was watching her. So she did pop up. Oh, here she comes to the right. Look at that. Beautiful. Well done, Sens. What a wonderful, wonderful scene this is. We couldn't be in a better spot with. Good grief. Can you see anything from up there, Shadow? Any snacks? Doesn't look like it. She's just enjoying this moment to catch her breath. Place we got of where she ended up at the end of the morning safari, combined with where we found her this evening. I mean, she's had a busy day. Who knows how long she's spent crouching and stalking up to prey. That's also incredibly tiring. I love it when they perch up on the mounds like this. She was apparently up a tree today also for a while, so she's been up and down, in and about, all over the show. Now we are about to welcome the 3 different schools onto the safari with us. Let's hope she just stays still for a little bit longer so we can welcome them with this incredible scene. Now we may have a little bit of trouble looping ahead and staying with her as and when she starts moving again, but we'll take that in our stride. And of course we do still have Tristan and Taylor to assist. I'm guessing that Tristan's wild dogs are also going to get up and active soon, so if you've just joined the safari, there's lots of things to look forward to. Ah, perfect. Hello and welcome to the Port Tucketville Memorial School, the Marty Elementary School, as well as the South River School. It is the greatest pleasure to have you on this live safari. Please, can you guys send through? And it's not just myself, Scott, who's out on safari this afternoon. You're also going to meet Tristan, who's also in South Africa, and then Taylor, who's in another vehicle 1,600 miles away from us, all the way up in Kenya. So we've got a lot of good prospects this afternoon. As you can see, we've found a leopard, and aren't had a busy day. She's been looking for a meal. She's got a young sub-adult cub that's about a year old that she's also needing to get a meal for. And we've already got our first question through from Aidan. Great to have you with us, and thank you for The cheetah and the lion as well are very, very good at doing exactly what they are doing now, sleeping. They sleep for about 18 to 20 hours every single day, so twice as much as we sleep on average, and I don't think they get bored. They kind of get bothered by the flies, like you can see it's getting bothered by the flies now. That's what shook its head. And they've got quite busy lives. It's not as easy for them to catch their food as we think it is, so they
Well, unfortunately, sometimes being live in the African bush means that we have a few difficulties technically, and sometimes we'll lose our audio and signal, so I apologize about that. But as you can see there, lying under the bush is a very beautiful wild dog. Now, these are some of the most endangered predators that we get here in South Africa, so this is an absolute treat. It is a very, very warm welcome to our 3 schools that are joining us this afternoon. I hope that you'll have the most wonderful time with us. My name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Ferg, and like I say, these endangered wild dogs have been sitting under this bush resting, and we are with them at the perfect time of day, because they sit and they rest through the hot part of the day, and as that sun goes down, that's when they start to wake up, and they might then go on a hunt. And these guys are incredibly fun to watch when they go on a hunt, because they are very, very quick, and they chase everything that you guys will be able to see just how much fun wild dogs can be. They were some of our absolute favorite animals, and I was saying to you that they are very endangered, and that's because there's very few of these guys left in the world. There's only probably here in South Africa, in the part of South Africa that we're in, there's only about 220 of them. And what we've got sitting here is 5 of those 220, so that's not very many wild dogs, and so it's a very special treat for all of you to be able to see them. Now, they look a little bit like normal dogs in some ways. They've kind of got that dog-like face, but what you will notice is that they all have a very pretty color. So they've got black muzzles with the cream coloration and little spots of white that helps to camouflage them. And then you also notice, look at how big their ears are. So they've got massive ears, and they will use those ears to listen to what's going on around them, so that when they're hunting, they can hear the animals that are running away from them that they are chasing. Because the pack of dogs, they won't stalk like a cat. They will run in and just cause absolute chaos and chase everything that is anywhere near. Ava, you were wondering about their ears and why they have such big ears. Well, the reason is because they have a situation where they're very small animals, so they're not big, and it means that the grass grows at about the same height as their heads, and so they can't often see what's going on in front of them, but those big ears help to catch a lot of sound. The bigger the ear, the more that they're able to hear, and they can then hear not only their prey animals that are coming towards them, coming, or hyenas or something like that, and be able to then get away before they get hunted. Angel, you're wondering how many wild dogs there are in South Africa? Well, in the whole of South Africa, there's about 450 wild dogs, so not very many. And unfortunately, because wild dogs are the way that they are, and because they're in areas where there's a lot of other different predators around, they really struggle to be able to survive. They have an over 50% mortality rate within the pups, and so when the pups are born, like I say, it's over 50% of them will die. Of predators that we get out here, including snakes and eagles, and so they have a tough time of it. The thing is, though, is that generally with wild dogs, if they can get past that first year, they normally survive all right, because they're then part of the pack, and as a pack together, they can often defend themselves from some of those more bigger and stronger predators that we get out here. Ryan, you're wondering what wild dogs eat. Well, wild dogs will eat pretty much most small to medium-sized antelope. So things like impalas that are a very similar animal to a deer that you get in the United States. They'll also eat things like scrub hares, which are a nocturnal type of rabbit, if you want to call it that. They will go after even sometimes larger antelope species, so something like a wildebeest or even baby zebras. They do go after even sometimes baby giraffe. So they've got quite a wide amount of food items, but it depends on the size of the pack. The bigger the pack, the bigger the animals that they will hunt. So if you've got a pack of 30 dogs, they're going to be going after things like a wildebeest or a zebra. When you've got a pack of 5 dogs like we've got here, they will be targeting more things like impalas, duikers, so those smaller antelope species that are much easier for them to be able to hunt. But it's interesting, when they do hunt, you would think that they would work together as a pack, but they don't. They all chase in different directions, and those animals will bounce around and go off, and each one will chase, and there's just absolute chaos, and sometimes the animal will run into another dog and they'll grab it, or they'll chase that animal until the animal becomes absolutely fatigued and just falls over, and they can then grab it, and the whole pack will come in and feed from there. It's really amazing to watch. Caden, you're wondering how fast they are? Well, they run at about 35 miles an hour, so pretty quick, and they have amazing stamina. So while they're not the fastest of all our predators out here, things like cheetah and lions are a little bit quicker, and they'll run a little slightly faster. These guys just have the stamina to be able to outrun pretty much everything. So they are built for long distance. You can think of them like a marathon runner. So I don't know if any of you have done long distance running, but that's how the wild dogs are. They're able just to keep going and going and going, and they'll fatigue any of the animals that are around them, and they'll try and chase them down until they are tired, and they'll then grab them. So it is an amazing thing to watch, and it's very different to the way something like a leopard would hunt, that stalks in and gets very, very close and then ambushes that animal. So Justin, you're wondering if wild dogs would overpower a regular dog? Most certainly they would. Wild dogs are tough animals. They're built to be able to survive out here in the wild, and they fight with things like leopard and lion and hyena, which are very powerful animals. And so a normal domestic dog would have a tough time, because it's not going to only be attacked by one. The wild dogs will all attack together, and so 5 of them together would definitely be able to take on a domestic dog and do a lot of damage. And I've actually, funny enough, seen wild dogs kill a domestic dog. Unfortunately, the domestic dog got lost and somehow got into the national park, and these wild dogs grabbed that domestic dog and killed it very, very quickly. So unfortunately, domestic dogs don't really stand a chance. It would be interesting though if we had a big breed of dogs, maybe something like a Great Dane or a Tibetan Mastiff. That might be a bit different. It would be interesting to see, but there's so few of domestic dogs that will get into these areas, because we try and keep them out as much as possible, because most times that domestic dogs come into this area, they generally are lost, and if they're lost, it sometimes means that they've got a disease called rabies, and rabies will affect their orientation, so they don't know how to get home, and they then drift into these wild areas. And if the dogs eat an animal with rabies, then you're going to find that they get it and they can all die. And that's why the numbers of wild dogs are so low, is because of rabies and canine distemper, which has been brought by animals from the outside. So Michael, you were wondering about rabies, and yes, they do get rabies, and unfortunately it's absolutely deadly for wild dogs, because wild dogs are so social that they'll constantly touch each other and lick each other and sniff and feed together. So if they've got rabies, it's passed through the pack very quickly, and the dogs, pretty much the entire pack, will then die from it. So it's a very big problem. We've had a number of and see if they can come up with a way to vaccinate dogs from rabies. It's a difficult treatment because they have to do it quite regularly, and obviously wild dogs are a tough animal to find, and they move a lot, and so it's not an easy thing to do, but they are trying to come up with ways to see if they can vaccinate against it and try and keep our wild dog population safe, so that they can start growing and not declining the way that they have. It's very sad that the wild dogs unfortunately are losing out a little bit and starting to decrease in numbers. It's always better when we have animals increasing, but hopefully they'll get it right. Peyton, you're wondering what can be done to help them since they are endangered. Well, Peyton, there's a lot trying to be done. There's a lot of dogs that are being trying to put into new areas again, areas where they used to occur, that they are no longer there, trying to get the populations to grow in different places. There's also a situation where they're trying to come up with ways to treat distemper and rabies so that they, like I say, can vaccinate these dogs so that even if the dog comes into contact with something that has got rabies, it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily going to get it. So it will be able to stay away, stay safe, and not get infected. So that's the idea, is to try and do those kind of things, as well as to raise awareness about wild dogs. Wild dogs are not a very well-known animal. Everybody just kind of thinks of, when we say predators of Africa, everyone thinks of the lion and the leopard and these kind of things, but the wild dogs are very important. So it's to try and get more people to know about the wild dogs and try and get more people to understand how important they are and how rare and endangered they are, and what we need to do to try and stop all these things. We also need to start educating the people that live on the fringes of these game reserves that they need to vaccinate their domestic dogs against rabies and distemper, so that if those dogs do get into the reserve, that they're not transmitting that disease this way and bringing it into our wild areas. So that's all the kind of programs that are going on at the moment. There's lots of people on the fringes that are treating all the domestic dogs as well, and that's trying to keep these guys much safer, as well as all the other animals. There's a number of different. But isn't it beautiful when they stand up? Look at those beautiful eyes as well. And the big ears, they're very cute. So Kelly, you're wondering why wild dogs sleep during the day, and Julian, you're wondering if they're nocturnal. So Katie, the thing is, the wild dogs sleep during the day because it gets very hot here. So sometimes it can get over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that it is too hot for an animal with long fur to run around. Kelly, I don't know if you have a dog at home, but you know if it gets very, very hot, your dog tries to go and find some shade and rest there, and it waits until around this time. Now that the sun is starting to set, this is when the dogs start to wake up and start moving. So hopefully we will see them getting up and start moving shortly. And Julian, to answer whether dogs are nocturnal, no. Dogs are more what we call crepuscular, which means that they are active around sunrise and sunset. So they are not active that much during the night, unless it is a full moon. You'll find that they then move if it's full moon because it's quite bright out here. But otherwise, sunset, sunrise, that's when they are at their most active, and then they rest during the middle part of the day so that they don't get too hot. Right, now while I sit with our wild dogs and see if they're going to wake up, let's go back across to my friend Scott, who's busy checking a very special place, and hopefully he'll have some luck.
We certainly are. Now, we've just arrived in an area where the leopard that we saw earlier, her sister, about 3 days ago, we saw her with a tiny little cub here, about 5 or 6 weeks old. And now the sister we saw coming from this area. So we're wondering what's happened. Now, there is a chance that that sister would kill a cub that is not hers. And nature can be very harsh like that. Animals will do everything in their power to get rid of any competition, even if it is competition that is created by their very own sister. Now, there's no immediate sign of any leopard and or cub in the undergrowth under that tree. Let's check back there. Good idea, Senzo. Nothing hiding back there. Now, if the cub was here alone, I'm hoping that it would have just hidden. It wouldn't have responded to another leopard that moved through here, especially seeing as though that other leopard wouldn't, in theory, have known to have called out to the cub to say that it's home. Only its mother would know to do that, and it doesn't look like its mother is anywhere to be seen. So I think now we've just come here quickly just to make sure we weren't missing anything interesting. There was maybe a chance that the mother of this cub was here and would have chased away her sister, and I'll be sitting with her cub, but it doesn't look like that is the case. And maybe it's just through complete default that she walked through this area. Maybe she's got no idea that her sister's hiding her little baby right here. Very good. We're going to go back to that other leopard we were with earlier. Hopefully she's still snoozing on that termite mound, and while we do that, we'll send you back to Tristan, who knows what his dogs may be up to.
Well, our dogs are still very sleepy. Look at how they're having a little nap and probably dreaming of chasing all kinds of different animals around. And so hopefully they will start to wake up at some stage. It seems as though they're a little bit tired. They had a very busy morning this morning. They were chasing animals, and then they got chased by a leopard as well. The sister that Scott was talking about chased these wild dogs this morning, and so she was busy, and so the dogs have had a long day, so maybe that's why they're a little bit sleepy now. Okay. You're wondering what color eyes do wild dogs have? Well, the color of their eyes is an amber color, so hopefully it will open. And the problem is that they're in the shade at the moment, so it's not really getting any light, and so the eye appears quite dark. But they've got a sort of deep, rich amber brown coloration, and if the light is right and it comes out and it hits them in the eyes, then you start to see this more orangey brown color coming out. It's very beautiful when the light is good, but when it's dark like this and in underneath the trees, then their eyes appear very dark in coloration. I'm hoping that they will stand up, because they are so beautiful when they do stand up. They've got lots of white little patches on them and lots of color, and they are very, very, very pretty, and each one will have a different color pattern. So it's like at home, if you had any dogs, all of your dogs would be a different color and a different pattern. It's the same with our wild dogs, is each one has got its own little markings, and that's how they can recognize each other, not only by smelling each other, but also by seeing one another. They'll be able to recognize each other. Very sleepy little dog, though. Caroline, you're asking if wild dogs can be pets. So no, Caroline. The reason why is that wild dogs move all over the place. So these guys can move easily 30 miles in a day, and so to keep them as a pet means it's very cruel to them. They're not able to move around, and they then become very depressed. Also, they eat too much, Caroline. They've got a very fast metabolism. Now, metabolism is the amount that your body is able to absorb food and to be able to process food. And so these guys, a pack like this, will need to eat twice a day. And when I say eat, they're eating a big impala, which could weigh as much as 180 pounds, and they can eat one of those twice a day. So imagine trying to feed that animal all the time. And also, they live in a pack, so you can't just have one. It's it would be very lonely. You would need to have it in a group together for it to feel comfortable and to feel like it's part of an area. So it's why we can't have wild dogs, also because they're endangered. All the wild dogs that are around need to be in the wild, because we need them to be breeding, and we need them to have more puppies so that we can grow the numbers and not have them just sitting in a fenced off area somewhere. So we have to look after them and make sure that we're not trying to take them away from the wild. So, Olivia, you're wondering how many babies they can have? Well, a single female wild dog normally has anywhere from one baby can have all the way up to 18 is on average. There have been recorded cases of 21 puppies in a litter, so you can imagine 21 little babies is a lot of work for a pack. But the nice thing is for that mom is that all of the pack will try and after those puppies, and so all of them will come and help with feeding and help with protecting, so she's not on her own. The thing is, though, sometimes if you have the pack very, very successful, there can be a second female that will also have puppies. So sometimes you can have 30, 40 puppies in a same den, and then it's really a lot of work for the wild dogs. So unfortunately, when they have that many, sometimes there's just too many to look after, and the predators like hyenas sometimes kill them, and you end up with a situation where they get killed. So that's why it's a bit dangerous to have that many, and very difficult for them to keep feeding that many miles. But I think that our wild dogs are very, very sleepy at the moment, and so although there's one that's waking up in the back, look, you can see one is in the back, is stood up. Seems as though it's going to stretch for us in the background there. Maybe this is a sign that they're going to start waking up. They do this, though. They get up and they stretch a little bit, and then they go lie down, and then get up and stretch and lie down. And so you'll find that it's kind of a slow process for them to wake up. And maybe we'll get lucky. Let's just give it 1 or 2 more minutes just to see if they do get up, because I've heard find the lions that were seen somewhere, and so we'll just have a little look and see what happens. But that dog looks like it's coming up now, which maybe the rest wake up with it and start moving out as well. What animal is most dangerous? Well, Bailey, it depends on what you're doing. If you are on foot and walking around, then buffalo and elephant are very, very dangerous. But if you are in a vehicle, elephant is probably your most dangerous animal. Now, that sounds funny because you would think a lion might be the most dangerous, but the elephants are so big and so powerful that when they're very cross, they can throw a vehicle around and they can really hurt somebody very badly, if not even kill them. So elephants and buffalo are something that you have to be very careful of when you're walking around. The cats tend to be a little bit more nervous and they'll move away from you, whereas those guys will try and confront you and try and be big and strong and push you away. So it's very dangerous to be anywhere near those animals on foot. contact, and then in a vehicle you have to just give them their space and hope that they are comfortable with you. Right, I think because the dogs have all laid down, the other one has laid down again, I think I'm going to go try see if I can find these lions that I was telling you about, and so that you can all see the biggest and most powerful cat we have here in Africa. And while we do that, let's go to my favorite cat that Scott has sitting on top of a termite mound.
Wonderful spot with this leopardess. She's just up there on the termite mound, and isn't it fascinating how relaxed she is with our presence? We probably only about 10 meters from her, and she hasn't even opened an eyelid as we got into the spot. And normally leopards will be very, very shy and elusive, so this is only because they've had a lot of time spent with them with vehicles that's made them get used to the fact that we are not going to be a threat to them. Hello to Austin. You would like to know how often will leopards climb trees, and it all depends on the individual leopard. Some of them like to climb more than others, and a lot of wild animals are just like us, Austin. They each have their own personality. Some of them will not only climb trees more than others, but some of them will be clever enough to actually hoist their kills up into the limbs of the trees, and that way safeguard them against animals like hyena and lion, who are not good climbers. So it all depends. I know she was up a tree earlier today, but we haven't seen her go up one. And Austin, the tricky things with these animals, even though she is very relaxed with our presence, there's no way of always being with her. So a lot of things happen with these animals that we actually don't know about. Especially when you think of how many hours there are in a day and how many hours we're out every day. There's a lot that happens without us around. So, who knows, hopefully she'll go up a tree later for us. Cammy, you'd like to know, why do leopards have black spots? Well, I guess it's difficult to know exactly why they've got black spots, but it definitely does work very, very well with their camouflage. And you'll realize it's not just the black spots, but once we take a little bit of a closer look a little bit later, we'll notice, hopefully when she's standing up, we'll notice that there's a kind of a black ring, and then in the center of that black ring there's a caramel dark brown color. So it's that dark black plus a little bit of brown plus their lighter pale coat, which helps them to blend in so well with their surroundings. There you can see a few of those kind of dark caramel spots in and amongst those black edges. And the official term for a leopard's marking is a rosette, because it's not just spots like a cheetah. They've got those rosette shapes with the brown caramel centers. And in general, the best kind of camouflage doesn't necessarily have to just be the right color, but it's just the fact that you've got your outline broken up by lots of different colors. So when you stand in behind a bush or behind some grass, it helps break your body up into lots of different pieces, whereas if you're just one uniform color, then the camouflage doesn't work as well. So I think it's fair to say that lion's camouflage as a general rule is not going to work well as cheetah and leopard, because it doesn't break their body up as much. They are just one uniform color. Hello, Kaysen. You would like to know, what are the predators of the leopards? What animals are going to give these leopards a hard time? Well, other leopards are often their own worst enemy. Female leopards will fight with other female leopards to try and get the best possible territory. And male leopards will do the same with male leopards. They'll also fight over land. And not only that, even male leopards will kill the cubs of a leopard that they are not the father of. And that happens quite often. So they've got a lot of trouble with their own kind, just like us as humans. Even though we are all the same species, sometimes humans from different countries fight with one another. And I guess it's the same with the leopards. And it's not just their own kind that they have to be careful of. Lions are definitely capable of killing leopards, and they will. They'll also kill cheetah, and lions and leopards will both kill cheetah. So cheetah are the weakest out of the three big cats of Africa. All attack one another as and when they can, but usually the lions are the most dominant. And then of course hyena can also cause trouble from time to time. They are also opportunistic, and they will also hurt and kill other meat-eating animals to eliminate the competition. Have you spotted anything there, or are you just having a look around, Shadow? I think she's just having a look around. She's going to have a good night for hunting tonight with this windy weather, because it's going to help break up her noise, and when she tries to get closer to her prey, they are going to have a hard time hearing and seeing her with all the bushes blowing and wind rustling. Ali, you would like to know how many spots does a leopard have? Well, let's count how many are on her paw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's call it 15 on the paw. And the paw is a very small part of the body. So let's say the paw is only, what should we say, 1% of the body size of the leopard, the full surface area. No, let's give it a bit more than that. Let's call it 2% of the full surface area of the leopard. So if 2% of her body has 15 spots, then her whole body must have 50 times 2% to get 100%. So 50 times 15 is 750 spots. Between 750 and 1,000. I would guess. Then there's other areas, Ali, like on her head. Let's take a closer look at her head, where there's hundreds of tiny little spots. Even a few just above her whisker marks there. So, I would say at least 1,000 spots. Just like us as humans, each leopard will look slightly different to the next, and some will be bigger, others will be smaller, some will have more spots, some will have less spots. It's impossible to know exactly. It's also impossible to know when she's going to wake up, but I'm hoping she wakes up soon. Before the end of the safari, hopefully we'll get to see her stalking some animals, showing us how stealthy she is. Justin, you would like to know, how long will leopards sleep for every day? Well, they're not like us as humans. We tend to have a lot of routine. Oh, good signs that she's getting up, and go to bed at the same time at night, roughly, and wake up at the same time in the morning. But leopards and a lot of wild animals live a very different life, because they don't know when things are going to happen, when opportunities for food are going to present themselves. So they don't necessarily sleep for 9 full hours like we do, or 8 hours like we do at night. They may take little cat naps during the day, 1 hour here, 2 hours there. They may spend one day very busy looking for a meal, and then once they've made their meal, they can just sleep next to it, eating when they want, and stay snacking on an animal like an impala for 3 full days. So on average, though, they need about 8. Depend on the leopard and the conditions it is up against. Alexis, you would like to know, what is the most favorite part of my job? Well, it's sharing magical moments like this with all of you guys. And definitely one of my most exciting things is when you guys are on the back with us and we can hear some alarm calls of animals that have seen a predator. The monkeys make a noise like this. And if you hear that noise and you rush into that area, there's a strong chance you may actually find a leopard. So I love doing things like that and finding the animal with you. Sometimes we go for many hours and many drives without finding leopards, tirelessly searching for them, following their tracks on the sandy roads. So we have got very, very lucky. Babies, and it's hard for us as humans to understand, Kason, but basically how it works is that if a male leopard is big and strong and dominant, he will own a certain patch of land, and within that land he may have about 4 or 5 girlfriends. So if he has those girlfriends and then he mates with them, he will do his best to protect them and make sure that no other males come into their house, you could say, or their garden. So if he's successful in doing that, and he's a big strong male and he chases all the other smaller males away, that means that he's doing a good job making sure his cubs are getting access to the biggest, strongest father in the area. If he is not big and strong anymore, and other young, big, strong males come in, then those males will kill the cubs so that the old male's girlfriends will be free, so that the new, strong males can be the ones that protect the cubs. So it's for a good reason, but it's obviously very sad when one leopard has to lose her cubs in order to have a better father, basically look after the next batch. But it is the way that nature works, and it is the way nature just makes sure that only the strongest animals and the fittest animals survive. Animals don't have as much feelings as we do, so we can feel very sorry for anyone that's in a disabled situation, but in nature that's not really allowed. There's no doctors to help keep them alive, so only the strongest and fittest will survive. For now though, she's not showing us how fit and strong she is she? She's showing us how well she can sleep. Amari, you would like to know if a leopard is the same thing as a cat. Well, it's a good question, actually, because you get lots of animals that are part of the same family. So your domestic cats that a lot of you guys will have as pets at home will be part of the cat family, and so will the leopard and the lion and the cheetah and lots of other different cats like mountain lions, jaguars, tigers. They are all part of the cat family, but they have got different kind of subspecies. So I guess you could maybe think of it as different races of cats. If that makes sense. Just like us, we have some people that live in Greece and they've usually got dark skin, and then you've got other people who live in Norway who usually are a little bit more pale in coloration due to the fact that they don't have too much sun there. And just like there's different kind of types of humans on the planet, you also get different types of cats and different sized cats and different shaped cats. So yes, leopards are very, very similar to your house cats in lots of ways, and they are parts of the same big family. Just like the wild dogs you've seen with Tristan a bit earlier, they are part of the dog family, so they are very distantly related to any of you who may have a Labrador or a Jack Russell at home. Come on, Shadow, wake up. Hello Diana, you would like to know how do we tell which leopard is which? And to be honest, with difficulty. A lot of them look very, very similar, and I don't consider myself good at telling them apart. Ooh, you see, as soon as the wind picked up, she even got a little bit nervous. Possibly something could have been creeping up to her and she just wanted to make sure. Well done, Shadow. Don't take any chances like Tristan did this morning. And you guys, I'm not sure if Tristan's explained to you, but you've got to ask him when you jump back on his vehicle what happened to him this morning, and maybe he'll be able to play you a little. I think has ever happened to any of us that work for Safari Live. And basically, though, if you wanting to tell the difference, each leopard has its very own unique spot pattern. So if we look above her whiskers now, you'll see she's got two little spots above what is her right muzzle, was that 3, and then her other side has a few more. So already those are a few distinguishing differences. She looks like she's got 3 or 4 spots on the left side of her nose and just 2 on the right. Anything to see up ahead there, Shadow? It doesn't look like that. Her body language is looking quite relaxed, but I think she is going to start thinking about getting up and looking for a meal. It's slowly getting darker and darker. The sun slowly dipped behind some clouds to the west, and once she does have the cover of darkness, I think it is then that she is going to continue trying to get her. Definitely looking hungry, and she's definitely had nothing to eat today. Justin, you'd like to know, how do the leopards get their names? Well, usually how it works, Justin, is that all of the guides who work in the area that the leopard is, once the leopard moves away from its mother, which means it's an adult, that is usually when the leopard will be named. So at the moment, this leopard has got a 1-year-old female, and we just call her Shadow's cub. And until such point as Shadow's cub starts looking after herself and Shadow gives birth to new cubs, that is when she will get her name, and it'll be a kind of a joint vote between all of the guides in the area that the leopard spends time before we work out who shall name it. Very good. Well, as we wait patiently for Shadow to hopefully get up and take us on a little bit of a walk for the last few minutes, you'll be glad to know that Tristan has made it back to some other big cats.
Indeed, so we've managed to find 3 of our big male lions that we get in this area. So we find that there is a group of 4 together called the Birmingham males, and they often are all over the reserve, moving around back and forth as they patrol and dominate this particular area. And so 2 of them are having a bit of a rest there, and the third one is just off to the side, and he's busy eating. So they managed to chase a leopard from an impala this morning, and so you can see that male, he's just eating some of the impala in the background. He's over his face, and he's also got quite a dark black mane. And then the 2 prettier ones of the 4 are the ones that are out in the open in this area here. Listen. You hear how they're growling at each other? Now, Austin, you're wondering which is bigger, leopard or lion? Well, the lions are way, way, way bigger. So that female leopard that you saw with Scott, she probably weighs in pounds. She'll probably weigh about 100 pounds. Whereas these male lions, they can be close to 500 pounds. So it's almost 5 times the size of that female leopard. So lions are much, much larger. They're impressive, big animals, and they've got these... They're growling at each other because of the food. Avner, you're wondering if I've ever been scared on safari. So no, I've not been scared on safari, really. Maybe in the first few days when I started being a guide, when I first came up to lions as close as this, then yes, I was a little bit nervous. But nowadays, no, not so much. I trust that are alarm calling and making lots of noise. Maybe there's another predator here, so let's quickly just go and have a look. We can come back to these lions, but there is something else causing something to shout and alarm call, and so maybe we'll get lucky with more lions coming, or you never know, maybe there's a leopard here. Remember that they did steal this kill from a leopard, so this is exciting that there's something else in this area. I apologize if my picture, because where we're driving, but the impala is shouting. I can see them now. I wonder if they're shouting for these lions. There is a strong wind that is blowing, so it could be for them, but they sound like they're a little far away to be just for the lions. But I can see them over here. Let's look. Maybe there's another lion here. Maybe there's a leopard. This is the best thing about safari, is that you never know what's going to happen. Around any corner, anything can kind of appear out in the open. So so Sam, you're wondering what happened to me this morning, because Scott told you that something happened to me this morning. Well, Sam, I had a bit of an accident this morning. I fell out of the car, and it was because I was following those wild dogs and they were running, and so I thought that I was going to be okay, and then I hit a stump, Sam, and then I went barreling out the car and rolling out, and I almost killed myself. But luckily I survived, Sam. I was able to land on my soft puffy jacket that I've got over here, and that meant that I stayed nice and safe. But here are the impalas. These are the animals that were shouting and making a noise. Another predator that moved around here. You can see, look, they're very alert, they're very nervous, and they were snorting, so they make a sound. That's the sound that they make when they're nervous, and you can see they're looking in the direction. So maybe they just smelt those lions, or they can see something. Look, you see, look how nervous they are. They can see that there's something not right here. Let's just go forward a bit. Maybe there's something that's lying in the open where they're looking, because they keep staring. Oh, this is so exciting. This is the best thing when you see impalas snorting like this. Aiden, you're asking, why do lions always have to kill animals? Well, because that's what they eat. So they're animals that eat meat. They can't live on grass. Their stomach won't be able to handle grass, and so they have to live on meat. You can see, look how nervous they are. They don't know where these lions are. I think they can smell them, but they can't see them, so that's why they're so nervous. But the lion's stomach is not designed for eating vegetation. It's only designed to eat meat, and so that's why they have to eat meat. Well, I can't see anything, but let's go back to the lions then. If they shout again, maybe we'll come back. You never know. Like I say, there could have been a leopard in this area. There was a leopard here this morning, a male leopard that was chased by these lions, and that kill was stolen. So that's why I wanted to come check in case it was our leopard that was in this area. Right, I'm going to head back to our 3 male lions, and while I do that, let's go back to Scotty, who, well, he can tell you the story about when he once drove into a tree without paying attention.
I did once drive into a tree, but before I tell you about that story, it's very important that I just warn you that at any moment this leopard could be running for its life. There's a pack of wild dogs, the same ones that you're looking at with Tristan a little bit earlier. They've woken up and they are moving in this general direction. Now, it's hard to say exactly how far away they are at the moment, but thankfully she's alert, she's looking around, and oh, that looks good. It looks like she's even thinking about getting back on the move. Good move, Shadow, because wild dogs can be quite nasty, and I think it'll be better that you are on the move, getting out of this area. It's not to say that they won't catch up with her. They move very quickly, the wild dogs. They're usually trotting once they get going. I'm sure you guys have been having fun with Tristan and the lions, as well as those impala alarm calls. Like I said a bit earlier, it's one of my most exciting things, responding to animals alarm calling at other predators. Very good. Basically, I must tell you about my tree though quickly. What happened was that I was looking for a bird somewhere, and it was kind of like behind us, so I was looking and driving forward, trying to get an angle of the bird behind some leaves, and then all of a sudden, ka-tonk, we hit a tree. But we weren't moving too quickly, so it wasn't nearly as dramatic as Tristan falling out of his car. Okay, well, it sounds like Tristan is back in a good spot with those lions. We're going to race ahead of this leopard and try and get you a few more views of her before the end of the safari. Why don't you go and see if those lions have got their heads up?
Well, we're back with the lions, and you can see their heads are up because they heard these impalas alarm calling, and so they probably think maybe something is around as well, although he's now crashing to the ground and having a little nap. Now, unfortunately, this male over here, he was late to the party this morning, so he wasn't with these males. Last night, the other 2 managed to kill a buffalo, and so they got a nice big full belly, but this male, unfortunately, he didn't manage you have. But look how big his mane is. Isn't he beautiful? Delani, you're asking how much do male lions weigh? Well, male lions, as I just mentioned earlier, will weigh about 500 pounds at fully grown. Sometimes there's even males that have been recorded over 600 pounds, but on average around 500 pounds. So they do get very large. They're big animals, and they need to be, because they have to be able to bring down massive things like buffalo that weigh close to 2,000 pounds. So they need to be strong, big, strong, muscular animals to bring down those big buffaloes. So it's an amazing thing that they are able to do it, and it's wonderful when you actually get to see the power that these male lions have. Now, you can just see, I'm going to go back a little bit for you, Ferg, just give me 2 seconds. So, because you can just see his face and his mane, if we go back, there we go, you can see the horns of the impala where he's busy kind of licking. So it's really just the head that is left, and look at the size of his paw in comparison to the head of the impala. You can see the paw is almost the same size as the head of those impalas, and we saw the impalas just now. You can get an idea of just how big these lions are. Isn't that amazing? And to see 3 male lions together is very special. It's not every day that we get to see these 3 together. In fact, we sometimes will go months without seeing them together, and we'll see one here or one there, or maybe 2 together, but to have all 3 is very special. And the 4th one isn't far away. We had tracks of a male lion coming up towards this area, and he was seen this morning south of us. So I wonder if the 4th one's not just lying somewhere in the bush at the back here, and all 4 would be together. Now, unfortunately, it is that time of the day where our drive is coming towards an end, and I hope that you have all had the most wonderful experience today, and that you enjoyed seeing the beauty of our spotted leopards, the big masculine power of the male lions, and of course the most endangered of our predators here, which is the wild dogs. It's been a really great afternoon, and like I say, I hope that you enjoyed it, and hopefully one day we'll see you all out here in Africa coming on a safari of your own. Now, I hope you enjoy your day further as well, and that you don't get too much homework today, and that you all get to go home and have a good sort of time outside, or do whatever it is that you like to do. But what we're going to do is probably just leave you guys with the last few images of the cats. So from myself and Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see the rest of our regular viewers tomorrow on our sunrise safari.